You're listening to the extended version of the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast.
Mark Who 42 Universe.
Hello, this is Brina Palencia, voice of Ciel Phantom Hive. You're listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome to Mark 42. Voice. You recognize it? Well, yes, it's me, Eduardo M. Freyre. I'm back. I took a little vacay, but I've returned. I imagine some of you are cheering and some of you are like, Okay, that's yeah. That's enough out of that. Hey, I'm not here alone. I also have with me
Vicky Jakubowski.
Yes, Vicky, I missed you. I miss our banter. I miss our back and forth. I miss it so much.
That's because you and I can talk more than the rest of the universe combined.
Exactly. Exactly. But you know what? It's not just you and me. We also have
Zion Quiros.
Zion. Good to hear from you as well.
As well.
I don't know. I miss this. Although sometimes if it's Mark, I'm just like, no, I'm not missing that. I kid. I miss it.
But this was always, but this was always going to happen. A canon event, to say so.
Oh, good segue. Good segue. Yes, what he has taught. Leave it to Zion to lead into the subject for today, which is the Spider-Verse sequel, Across the Spider-Verse, right? Yeah, Across the Spider-Verse.
I
don't know. I'm trying to keep.
I think the greatest superhero movie of all time.
Oh, okay.
I see.
Oh, wow. We can tell you ready with Zion and you're ready for fight. Okay, well, what are your dukes? I keyed. Yeah, today we're covering Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. No, is it? No, Into the Spider-Verse was the first one. This is Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
I know, I had to think about that too. It was like, hold it, which one? Yeah, don't do the titles that close, but then again, I get it.
Yeah, no, I get it too. Although I am, for me, it's like, okay, wait. The first one was Into. This is Across. The third one, which is supposed to come next year, but we'll discuss that later, is Beyond. Okay, so it's
correct.
Into, Across, Beyond. Into, Across, Beyond. Into, Across, Beyond. Into, Across,
we
Beyond.
Can stop, silly.
I'm back in school. I'm back in school again. We have to do this.
We're having too much fun. But yeah, let's get into this.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So for those, we need to catch up. Into the Spider-Verse, we were introduced to Miles Morales, making his big animated debut on the screen. Miles is, he inherited the Spider-Man title after his Spider-Man was killed by the Kingpin. He ended up teaming up with multiple Spider-Men from across the dimensions to stop the Kingpin, who was trying to open up dimensional portals. And then, he found himself. He, managed to save the world and become the new Spider-Man. So this one kind of picks up. What was it, like a few months?
About a few months.
Yeah,
about a few months.
Just barely.
Yeah, he's been trying to do the thing. he's been trying to do the thing, being a superhero, balancing school, trying not to tell the parentals, and also missing his interdimensional crush, Spider-Gwen, which she's still doing Spider-Gwen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I know that in the comics they've been using the name Ghost Spider.
Ghost Spider. Oh,
So-
Interesting. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, like I think a couple of years ago they switched. She got she gave herself a new identity of Ghost Spider, which honestly,
Kind of fits.
yeah, no, yeah, it's something. Yeah, it fits, and plus it's like, yeah, it doesn't feel like an identity that could be, a superhero identity that could simply be costly for the regular identity. It's like, yeah, you might not want to call yourself Spider-Gwen. It's like, hey, look, there's that girl that looks almost exactly like Spider-Gwen, and her name is Gwen. Hey.
Well, there is a
Yeah.
few times in this movie that she refers to herself as Spider-Woman,
Yeah. I think it's
which is interesting.
it's supposed to okay. It's supposed to be like, I think it's officially supposed to be like Spider-Woman or Spider-Girl. It's just the Spider-Gwen is an identifier.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah. Like although, yeah, now calling herself, yeah, I believe the in-universe explanation, the Ghost Spider thing is because she's dimension hopping.
Yeah, it helps
She
keep it
calls
straight.
herself, she calls herself Ghost Spider because, yeah, she can't, that way another spider, that way if like another Spider-Woman shows up and somebody says, hey, Spider-Woman, you don't have like two or three people like, yes. We kind of had something like that in the film proper. But plot wise, yeah, Miles is doing the thing and he runs into a villain called the Spot.
Oh my God, that
And,
is so good too.
The Spot finds out how to jump dimensions, and well, Spider-Gwen, who's having her own issues with covering her identity, she ends up being outed after facing a Renaissance vulture.
Wasn't that interesting?
Cool.
Love the Da Vinci design. That was awesome.
Yes.
That was awesome. I love that Da Vinci design. And oh man, the scene where she gets outed in front of her policeman dad, who's like, oh, Spider-Woman killed Peter Parker. It's like, oh, awkward family conversation time.
Yes.
But she does get saved by a Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, despite her boss having issues.
Do you know what that version reminded me of? That version of Spider-Woman reminded me of? Now I'm going to show my age.
Okay.
The original Electric Company. Back then, so Electric
Yes.
Company that had Morgan Freeman and Rita Moreno
Yes.
also had a Spider-Man that was on it. And yes, okay, of course the costume was horrible. But in towards the end, they had a Spider-Woman, and she had the same, not quite as cool outfit. She wasn't pregnant, but it looked very much like her. Even the afro was the same, and it just was like, oh, my childhood. So
You know what? I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that looks like the basis. If they
yeah,
were
you
going
kind
with
of wonder.
the Electric Company.
I've never heard of that.
Really?
The
Yeah.
Electric Company?
The original
Yeah, was
Electric Company?
Yeah, it was in the 70s on PBS. And it often followed Sesame Street, but it was more for the teens and the tweens. And it was actually where Morgan Freeman got his first big breaks. outside of the stage. And it was a resurgence for
Yes.
Rita Moreno because, she was this big star, and then they didn't know what to do with her because, Hollywood and anyone of color struggled.
Yeah.
So it gave her a resurgence, it's a funny story because Morgan Freeman, I want to say, was already in his late 30s, early 40s by the time he did Electric Company.
Interesting.
Relatively speaking, he was late to the game, but and they would tell us how to spell and how to count and do all that other things, but with kind of a cool vibe, as opposed to, and I love Sesame Street too, but it was a slightly different vibe. And it's just one of those things that I always thought that they were, as a kid, I thought they were two sides to the same coin, and I loved it. And I don't know, that might be where I got my first idea to read comic books, because I would have watched Electric Company when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. So
You know what? Actually, it's funny because I did do the PBS thing as a child. I did do I did Electric Company. I I remember it's like I would watch Sesame Street. Electric Company came like right after. And it's like, you had the 1-2 punch, and or you had it was that Mr. Rogers.
And they replayed those forever. Yeah. Mr. Rogers was in the lineup too.
Yep, Mr.
Yes.
Rogers. Yeah.
But hey, the Spot is hilarious, right?
Yes.
From his conception, no one took him seriously. Even when I was like reading what he came in around like the 80s or so. I don't remember his around the 80s. But I was reading his first appearance. I just came across it years ago. But Spider-Man didn't take him seriously. My friend didn't take him seriously, and I'm just saying, look at him. There's giant potential here. Look.
And I feel like they really did that in this.
They maximized his potential. It's incredible what they did with this character.
I love the fact that they tied him in to the multiverse.
Yes.
That they used.
I think it was perfect.
In the comics, I mean, basically, he just uses it to, it's just a means of travel and just having weird fights with superheroes where they punch him and it goes into, the fist comes back. But it's like, oh, it's the multiverse. And I love that they tied him back in also with first film. He talks. He's like, "You threw a finger at my head," and it's like, "Oh, geez," it's like, "Oh, wait," So it's like, it makes you want to go back, see the guy that got the finger thrown in his head, and be like, "Oh, there's Jonathan Holm." Yeah, and it's great because I saw my first exposure to the Spot, 90s Spider-Man cartoon. The one that was on Fox, the one that had Christopher Daniel Barnes as Spider-Man, and
Spider blood, radioactive.
Exactly. That was my first exposure to the Spot, and then to find out that he's actually in the comics, and then to find out he's actually been in the comics for like a decade before he made his animated series debut. It's like, whoa, hold on. Getting this obscure character and putting him in the spotlight. Bravo.
Yeah.
And I love the arc. I love the fact that we get to see him go from a joke, which he absolutely was, to this maniacal, it can't get much worse than him because he could destroy every multiverse, every universe in the multiverse if he so desired. I mean, that's just scary.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
But they did such a good
thing,
job with that. That you're laughing at him in the beginning, and by the end of the show, you're like, "Oh shoot, he's going to be he's going to mess a lot of things up."
This is going to be this is now a problem. Yeah,
and this is one of those things that. The incredible job. I haven't used incredible. Like, there's a different word for this. The job that they did with the animation. Like, if you put the Spot in the best MCU movie, it wouldn't be the same way as he's portrayed here. You wouldn't feel the same because he's just a guy in a suit that's using portal powers that Doctor Strange has done already. But with animation, you could do so much more.
Yes.
And they maximize it.
Yes.
I feel like that. I'm gonna say that through this entire thing, they maximized this movie's entirety.
Yes.
And here I thought we'd talk, and don't worry, folks, we're not all of a sudden talking about Rise of Beasts. We're not talking about the Transformers sequel, but yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just, it is. Yeah, no, it's making a joke character and turning him into an actual
Yes.
That is just.
I like
beautiful.
it when sometimes there's those close-ups of him and you can see the sketch lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That it just the visual art of this entire movie is so magical, and I think it's why doing it in animation makes it so much better than it could possibly be as a live action, because you have all the different animation styles. Every character has a different style. Every character has a kind of a different theme, and then when you throw in those little live bits, you kind of go, it's perfect.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's the different animation styles was the thing that caught me.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that caught me, is the fact that all these different animation styles now. Spider-Punk has that weird kind of.
Oh, I know. Isn't that great?
Sex Pistols.
EDS.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you have. You also have. The sketchiness, the kind of Da Vinci.
Right. It feels like he's made on
like,
parchment with the sepia ink, without a doubt.
Right, exactly.
And
exactly.
his
Yeah,
designs
and
and his weapons fit with something that you could see Da Vinci designing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's what I love it. I love the look, the aesthetic, I love, I just love how everybody has that difference.
And to top it off, there was a scene where he was throwing a bomb, right? And again, in any other animated movie, he's just throwing the bomb. But in this movie, it's the diagrams, is the blueprints of the bomb. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely. And man, talking about, so yeah, I mentioned this. I love the new spiders that we got, like starting with we already talked about Jessica Drew. I love Spider-Punk. I love his whole vibe. I love, and it made sense, as we kept
he's
going,
a team player, but he's subversive. He's screw the establishment, but and it just, I love it when Miles goes, oh my god, without your mask you're even cooler.
Yes, yeah.
And he was. I mean, it's just like, oh yeah, I'd hang with you.
Oh yeah, no, I'd hang with you. Yeah, no, I love Spider-Man India. That was
my
Spider-Man
Lord.
India.
That whole Bollywood scene, because that's what it was. It was this gigantor Bollywood, and of course it's before anything bad has happened. It's before all the canon stuff that has to happen happens. And he's so happy, and he's so filled with joy, and everything about it is correct and realistic. And I don't know, I enjoyed the heck out of that whole time. The only thing that I was sad about is they didn't break out and dance and song.
Yeah.
They missed that bit. Don't they know that's a requisite?
Yeah. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised actually if in the in the sequels. I wouldn't be surprised if in the sequel, please, at the end, Will's been saved, and you just have you get like one little bit of Latin or whatever it's called. You just get one little glimpse of it.
Yeah.
And everybody's dancing because it's like, oh, the world's been saved. It's like, oh, okay, sure. You
But
know
the
what?
design of that
Yeah.
costume, oh my
Oh
gosh.
my lord.
Wasn't that one of
And
the most
here's
gorgeous things you'd ever seen?
yeah, no, and here's like Spider-Man India does have like a comic book counterpart.
Yeah.
That it's like, yeah, it's just so different because it's, you know, you basically have you have like it's just basically, yeah, like the Spider-Man outfit with like a skirt, you know, a couple of little things here and there.
Right.
This was just so visually distinctive that I'm just like, wow, that
Oh yes.
is so that's cool. That is really cool.
It was a superior redesign.
Yes.
If I have to say so myself.
I absolutely
Yes, no,
agree because
definitely.
I feel like they it was informed, it was far more accurate, and it wasn't a caricature. You know, you actually felt like, okay, here's somebody who understands this culture. They probably got some very good input from people who actually knew what they were doing. And you know, when you think about some of the stuff, you know, growing up with some of the older comic books and seeing now that they're going, okay, well, you know what, we want to embrace the culture. And I love some of the biting comments like, oh, another Westerner out here in India trying to get enlightenment, you know, how stereotypical can you be, you know? It was hard not to just die of hysterics because it was so sublime and beautiful, and I want to see more now. I just, isn't that wild the way that this movie moved in so many great ways.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think we all agree that, again, the doing it as an animation, and people like to discount animation, and they're wrong.
Yes.
Animation
I really do.
has a place, and it can be just as powerful and just as amazing as a quote unquote live action. Some things actually will be more powerful as an animation. This would not be as powerful as a quote unquote live action.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. It wouldn't have the visual style.
No, no matter how hard you tried, it just wouldn't be enough.
No,
and so I applaud
it
them, and I applaud the fact that it's going to be a trio.
Oh
yes,
yeah,
a trilogy. Yes, this is interesting. But also, I want to say something. Because we haven't talked about this yet. So this movie, just for the outside person, is an incredible movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But as a comic book reader, this is next level.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. I never had any reaction to the Comic Code Authority symbol.
Yeah.
But the fact that they put that in the beginning, that told me everything about what this movie was going to be.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, you see how the jokes where people laugh. I was the only one laughing there. That was hilarious.
Yes. Yeah. I did too. And
I
saw
had
to explain it to my son afterwards. It just, you know, that code that came in, I don't know, late 50s, mid 50s, something like that.
It was after Friedrich Wertham had like a after he basically was like, comics are corrupting their children.
Yeah.
Wow, where have we heard that before?
I know, it's always someone else's fault. Sorry. And it just, I thought that being on there was, again, part of the subversiveness, part of the beauty of it. It was like, thank you for that little bit, because to anyone who read comic books, because that thing was on there for decades and decades. I think they finally stopped doing it only recently, didn't they? Like in the last
within about the last like 20 years or so.
Yeah.
But you know what? This, unfortunately, our conversation cannot last 20 years or decades. We do have to go to commercial. But hey, when we come back, it's more about
Spider-Verse, especially because wow, we got plenty more Spider-Man to talk about. Holy cow! Youch! Yowza!
Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Oh, hey, I got something.
Since 2009, we have been the premier cartoon podcast here at the Geekcast Radio Network. We are Tooncast. From taking you beyond the cartoons we grew up with to seasonal saucy toon talk, and now we get the origins of Toonsters everywhere as we ask guests 30 questions about their cartoon watching experiences, plus so much more. Tooncast is back. Join me, TFG and Mike, and the rest of the GCRN crew as we give you all the toon talk you will ever need, only on the GCRN, and wherever you consume your podcasts. We are beyond good, beyond evil, beyond your wildest imagination. We are all tunes all the time here on Tooncast.
Yeah. You are listening to Mark Who 42's Universe.
Welcome to Mark Who 42. Welcome back. Hope you grabbed a snack. Hope you went before you came back. You know what I mean. I'm not going to use other language. Family show, and you guys aren't 5. But hey, here's the question though: is this Mark Who 42 from 616? Mark Who 42 from 928? Mark Who 42 from 666? Oh, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to tell you. All I got to say is I just made another joke because we're jumping into the multiverse. Actually, the Spider-Verse, because we're talking about the Spider-Verse sequel, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If you were here for the first half, you know, we talked about Miles, where he is. We talked about Gwen. We talked about Renaissance era vultures. We talked about the Spot. We've talked about Spider-Man India. We talked a little bit about Spider-Punk. We've talked about a whole bunch of Spider-Men and women. But you know what? Are we done yet? Is that all the Spider-Women that we have?
Oh, good heavens, no.
No, we barely scratched the surface. I think though, to start off this half, we do need to talk about the big alternate universe Spider-Man 2099. First off, I love the fact that they got Oscar Isaacs to voice him. I love that Spider-Man 2099 first appeared in an end credits scene in Into the Spider-Verse. It was still Oscar Isaacs. And then I love how they expanded his role here. It turns out that the army of multiversal Spider-Men, he's in charge of it. And in what I found interesting, though, is that in many ways, he's really the second antagonist of this film.
Yes. Very true.
You know, the whole thing is that he explains to Miles that there are things called canon events that must happen. It's the Spider-Verse version of fixed moments in time.
It is the perfect name.
Yep, I know that. Yep, I know that. You know, we talked about Spider-Man India. One of the things that happens in Spider-Man India is that Miles rescues the Spider-Man India equivalent of, I think it was George Stacy, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he rescues Spider-Man India's version of George Stacy, who was supposed to die in a bridge collapse, but instead he saves him, and apparently that opens up a portal that's destabilizing that reality. And you see a bunch of Spider-Men show up trying to figure a way to stabilize it.
Yeah.
What 2099 says is that every Spider-Man has to have that element of tragedy, lest their reality collapse. So it's like that's supposed to explain why we always have Uncle Ben dying, or this person dying, or the fact that Miles had his Uncle Aaron. And it's like it's one of these things. He tries to kind of set it up as it's for the greater good type of deal,
right?
And it's like Miles is like, no, we can't just let tragedy happen. We have to at least try. A bunch of the Spider-Men are like, well, no, Miles, Miguel has a point, and other Spider-Men are kind of hesitant. I know Gwen really doesn't want that to be the case.
Right.
One thing actually that I found, and it's interesting because, cut to the end of the film, and Gwen actually finally gets the chance to have a heart-to-heart with her dad, and finds out that he quit the police force. And it's like right there you have that, that kind of little hole
variant,
that little variation that it's like maybe it doesn't have to be. The other thing that gets me though is, see, I'm very familiar with Spider-Man 2099 because back in, I want to say it was 92 that Marvel started doing 2099 comics.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I read Spider-Man 2099, and here's the thing though. Here's the dirty secret, and I wonder if this will come into play. There is no canon event, at least for the comic version of Miguel O'Hara. He did not have a dead Uncle Ben. His dad had passed away before the events of the comic book, but his dad was a jerk. Like his dad was just
of the death or the loss of a love.
Well, see,
didn't he lose a wife or girlfriend or something in the comic? Or am I remembering someone else?
You know what? Yes, because he did. He had a girlfriend that they eventually split up, and she was killed by the 2099 equivalent of Venom. But this is the thing, though. That happened very late in the book. That happened after he was Spider-Man for a good while.
So then it makes you wonder, why is he so gung-ho? Now, of course, in the movie, you have a different story, and it's the loss of a family, and then he goes and gets the family back, but it's the the world ends up collapsing on itself, kind of like in Doctor Strange multiverse, is that you cause death and destruction. Except that I think it's awfully hubris of him to go, oh well, I caused death and destruction, so nobody else can.
Right, yeah, no, and not to mention the fact that we have another thing in the film that would kind of punch a hole in Miguel O'Hara's logic, and that's, again, sorry to jump forward, but the movie basically ends on a cliffhanger because you have Gwen decides to gather up her own team of spider people to try and save Miles. Right. Because, Miguel now has a mat-on for him. Miles ends up in another dimension. Like, he thinks he's heading home to save his dad, but he ends up in another dimension. And in this
that was wild.
Yeah, Miles Morales has become the Prowler. His Uncle Aaron's alive, but he's working for his nephew, who's like this, big criminal. And the one who's dead is actually Miles' dad. Miles' dad is the one who's dead. The thing that is interesting, because it's like, okay, so there's the canon event. But wait a minute. If that's the case, why is Miles a villain in this timeline?
Yes.
Like, this actually throws.
And Miguel claims that Peter Parker in Earth 42 should have become, but it kind of makes you think that maybe Miles was the one in Earth 42 who should have become the Spider-Man as opposed to the villain, because everything that was set up kind of screams that Earth 42's Miles should have been the one to get bit. So it should have still been a Miles. And Miguel's assertion it should have been Peter is wrong.
Yeah.
And I realize that there's a lot of things going on, but it's like Miguel thinks he knows what's right and what's not. But then you look at all the different, we have the clone Spider-Mans, we've got the one-off Spider-Mans. I mean, not all of these are Peters, and not all of these are
tragedy. Yeah. Like, I know that I know also, if we want to dip the comics, there was a Peter Parker from there's a book called 1602 written by Neil Gaiman, which has Marvel heroes being created in the year 1602 AD. And you still have a Peter Parker there, and to the best of my knowledge, he doesn't have like an Uncle Ben event. I think he got, I know that at the end of there was like maybe 2 different minis that take place in 1602, and I know at the end of that he gets bitten. Now, I suppose the canon event for him is not his Uncle Ben, but he was like helping the 1602 equivalent of Doctor Strange, who was arrested and beheaded. So it's like, okay, maybe that's the canon event, but there's like, there's all these Peters, and it's like all these Peters and Mileses and Gwen's and Aunt May's and Flash
Do you kind
Thompson.
of feel like Miguel is so hyper focused that he can't see the forest for the trees? When he's looking at the multiverse, and then he's looking at the Spider-Verse intertwined with the multiverse, and he shows us that tree that we've seen before in Loki and in Doctor Strange, and in Spider-Man No Way Home. We've seen this, and then he shows that Spider-Verse, which, by the way, just a side note, holy crap, that was amazing. But we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But is that Miguel, who's made himself the keeper of the flame, he's made himself the one who remains, that he's again so obsessive and hyper focused, even though he is surrounded by variations. He has decided that Miles should never have existed as a spider. And that decision and that myopic obsession is just making him make bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and he's wrong.
Yeah, especially because it's like, here's the thing, it's like, okay, Miles had no control over being bitten by a radioactive spider that came from another dimension. It's like, and it's like, okay, smart guy. So if Miles isn't supposed to be a Spider-Man, how are you supposed to fix this? And it's like, oh, your solution is kill his dad. It's like, okay, wow, it's, geez Louise. It's like, what are you from the bubonic plague where they used to like brick people up in their houses?
It's like, how awful can you be?
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? I must kill the world. Yep. Seriously, people, get over yourselves.
Yep. By the way, I love that one of the spiders is Ben Reilly.
Yeah.
I love that they threw in Ben Reilly from the Clone Wars. And I actually like Andy Samberg, just being all, overly dramatic.
Yes.
I just thought that's just such a great little, bit here, having an overly dramatic Andy Samberg.
Wouldn't you say that the 5 bazillion Spider-Men are just absolutely wonderful? Everything about that, trying to see how many of them you could recognize.
And by the way, I love, kudos to the filmmakers for doing us a favor and having moments where the Spider-Men are ID'd.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, okay, so so that is who that is. Right. So I was right. It's like they didn't do that in the previews, but at least here it's like, oh, okay, we can recognize the Spider-Man. Yay! Yay! They actually ID'd them. I have to admit though, there was one Spider-Man that I was hoping would show up. He didn't show up. And I'm like, please tell me they'll have him show up in Beyond the Spider-Verse. We needed the Spider-Man, the Japanese Spider-Man with the giant robot. I know we have Penny Parker. But damn it, we need the Spider-Man with the giant mech. Come on.
I would watch that.
That's right there. I mean,
it depends.
You could have, figure.
They follow Spider-Verse because Morlun destroyed it.
Well, I mean, he could have. Hey, he could have built a new one. You know,
This
you
is
could
Japan.
Yeah, and not to mention this is we're dealing with a multiverse. They could also pull a Japanese Spider-Man with a giant mech from a universe where it wasn't destroyed. I mean, come on, man.
True.
Come on. Think of how cool the Spider-Man chase throughout Earth, throughout New York. You know, you have all these Spider-Man chasing Miles.
Oh my God, that was so good.
Imagine Miles thinking he's home free, and then all of a sudden this giant mech shows up, and then out pops the Japanese Spider-Man going, "I am ambassador from hell." It's like, what? Come on, man. Give us the ambassador from hell.
There was so much I enjoyed in that world. There was I just all these different spiders, which, I'm sad to say I only knew a few, but I was excited to then go and research further and see, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting one. And I don't know. I just loved it. I thought it was so well done. And even though you had this plethora of Spider-Men and women and children and cars, and it just, they gave each character their character, even as they were, following in mass. You still could distinguish different people and different things. And that was so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And of course, you got to love the "Stop Spider-Man," and everybody's pointing at each other.
Which one?
Which one?
That was so good. That was
Orion,
beyond good.
Yeah.
The amount of respect that this movie has shown for just the mythos of Spider-Man, just across all media, is really incredible.
Yep.
Like we talked about the canon events, and like the way that they put it in there is like so seamless. Okay, Miles saves the Indian police captain. Cool.
Right.
And then you, as a comic book reader, are reminded about what was it? Amazing Spider-Man 90. That's what he said, right? Where Captain Stacy dies, and then you're like, oh yeah, that is supposed to happen. Yeah, that does always happen, doesn't it? And like it's just the fact that like it was just shown it's just a normal Spider-Man thing. Spider-Man saves the day. No. Comics.
Not always.
Yeah,
Comics.
not always.
And like with Gwen, right? Every scene with Gwen is in the same art style as the 2015 comic. And it's weird that it took me a while to realize that when I was sitting there, I was like, where have I seen this before? I'm like, wait, this is literally the covers. This is literally the book.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. I'm like, wow, the amount of work and respect that this thing puts in is really incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And I know that Dan Slott, who actually wrote the original Spider-Verse story, he's been on cloud 9. He's loved it. He's loved what they've done with it.
Oh yeah, I bet. See, like that's one thing that I wonder. We have all these Spider-Man here, but we're missing Spider-Man 616, and they know that. They're holding on to it, and I do want to know what they're gonna do with it, because like I was thinking, is there gonna be any live action? Sure enough, there's Donald Glover as Prowl.
Yes.
Oh
Wasn't
yeah,
that fabulous too?
We did have we had Donald Glover's like his it's like another version of Prowler. I do love the fact that he interacted with Miles, and you have like a, hey, it's impolite to stare. Or when somebody's saying, or how he joins in on the booze, but like just very nonchalantly, he's like, boo.
Yes.
I thought that was that was cool. I like that they used footage from the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. I do love that they made a reference to No Way Home
Yes.
And and here's the thing that got me, they used the designation, the actual multiversal designation of the
MCU.
Yeah, of the MCU.
It was 199999.
Yep, and you just gotta love Miguel just being all mad, and just being like, that Spider-Man and that and that wizard from
It's like, how dare they screw with my system?
Yep. That was great. I love there's still you could still have a Spider-Man that is supposed to be 616. You may be able to slip one in there. You may be able to slip him in there. You might be able to have Tom Holland show up. I mean, who knows? Who knows what they got in mind? Because we still have like an entire movie to go.
Right.
I do know. Okay, so I didn't get a chance to read the article, but I saw that someone was saying, there's not, I don't know if there's a chance that it could actually be all done by 2024. What I'm hoping is the article's just clickbait. I do know that we're in, and then supposedly, like Haley Steinfeld has said she hasn't recorded anything yet. It could be, it could be one of these things where they're just saying that, and we'll still get it on time. It could be that the current writer's strike has kind of nailed stuff. So, it's I don't know, but hopefully we get it sooner rather than later. Hopefully we do get it like in a decent amount of time, and we're not sitting here for too long with a massive cliffhanger. Because
I agree.
I've just so enjoyed this, and I've just so enjoyed the fact that they really went all in for the multiverse concept. I know that this is the one of two movies that we have this summer that deal with the multiverse, or at least act like they deal with the multiverse. And so far I have to see the other one, which is The Flash.
Right.
So
I haven't
far,
seen
though,
it yet either.
Yeah.
Same.
So far though, I would have to say that this is in the lead.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is definitely in the lead.
Some of the things that I've been hearing from people who have seen it, this is by far the superior multiverse film, and it's a very good film. Even not even addressing it as part of the multiverse, not even. I mean, it's good for a film. It's good for an MCU film. It's good for a non-MCU film. It's just so well made, so well written that it's kind of like, well, it's kind of why it's an almost perfect film. Everyone can enjoy this. Everyone, like I said, my son's girlfriend, who is not as familiar with all this stuff as we are, she actually enjoyed herself, and she knew virtually none of the backstories and everything else. That to me is a sign of a good film, that both the fans of an existing product and new fans can be made.
Yes, definitely. No, I feel that one. And I have to agree. I have to agree that it is definitely something, and it you know what? It embraced the idea of the multiverse. Without without the without being confusing, without it showed that it could work. It showed that it could work, because I know I've heard so many times. It's like, well, the problem is you have to do it in a way that won't confuse people. It's like, well, this did it.
Guess what? They just set up the bar. It's actually much easier than people think it is.
Yep.
But there is the, you throw in the jokes. And I think that's one of the things that Spider-Man has always had. There's a humor to Spider-Man. There's a heart to Spider-Man. There's a tragedy, which is probably why Spider-Man is so well liked by so many people across the globe. Whether you're male, female, old, young, it's because we can identify with some part of him.
Well, also you have the tragedy part, but it's not, unlike certain other heroes who shall remain nameless.
Right.
It's not like, my life is tragedy. I will prevent somebody from having the tragedy as well. It's like, no, it's like, it's awful. I lost this person, in my life. It's awful. But, it's not dwelling on it. It's not, which is not to say well, kids, if you lose grandma, just move on. It's like, no, of course you mourn, but it's like, the other thing is that you do have a certain point where it's like, okay, I am going to, life goes on.
Yes.
Life goes on.
And I think that
you
Peter
have
Parker
to,
gives us a glimpse into life is full of tragedies. It's how you deal with it and how you move forward. That's what becomes important.
Yes. Boom goes the dynamite. Definitely. You hit the nail right on the head, Vicky.
I think that's one of the beautiful things about Spider-Man, and it doesn't happen overnight, which is also a beautiful thing. He struggles with it. He decides he needs to make sure that the death of his uncle or the death of his Captain Stacy is
Gwen, death of Gwen too.
Or Gwen, that's right, because we have all of those that happen in the various universes. And when you think about it, it just becomes how do you deal with tragedy and how do you get better and better? And I feel that the Miles that we have, at least the beginning of this film, when we're focusing on Miles, versus the beginning of the last film, he was struggling. He was trying to figure out who he was. He was trying to, that origin story that we all have. And in this film, he's now in his groove, which of course means something has to disturb the groove, but he's finally in a groove. He knows what he needs to do. He knows what his responsibilities are, even though it does kind of get into screwing up his life a little bit.
That's the life of that's also the life of a superhero. I mean, how many times, you do
this is
you
what
do
it would
something
be like
and then all of a
if
sudden,
you were a superhero.
Yep.
It's not all glamour.
It's trying to get the congratulatory cake to your dad without it being smushed.
Oh, I know. That was so sad.
Yeah. And on that note, don't leave, because we will be talking more about Spider-Verse and also, another momentous event in Spider-Man history. So, I've been Eduardo M. Freyre. Great to be back with Vicky Jakubowski and Zion Quiros, and hope you can join us for the extra innings.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
The Pullbag is GCRN's comic book review and discussion-based podcast. Join me, TFG and Mike, and the rest of the GCRN crew as we discuss the comics we are reading right now. Inside the Pullbag, you'll also find the origins of how guests got into or out of reading comics, after dark discussions, and so much more. You can find the Pullbag every Wednesday, which is New Comic Book Day, only on geekcastradio.com and on anywhere you consume your podcasts. Make your great escape into comics and jump into the Pullbag today.
Wait. You're still here? You're still here? Things didn't end? This branch of the multiverse is still standing? Well, yes, it is. Because you're not listening to us on Odyssey Radio. Or you were listening to us on Odyssey Radio and then you jumped. So yeah, we're keeping the party going. What? Did you think with all that Spider-Verse stuff we'd stop? Fool. Oh man. But yeah, oh geez.
But
You
there's
know
still
what?
so much to talk about.
Oh man, yeah, no, there's just so much to talk about, so much to, it's it's like ag. I don't know. I don't know what else we got. It's just
Can I get one?
ugh.
Go for it,
Yeah,
Zion.
sure. Go for it.
Okay, so like there's multiple ways that this series is unique in superheroes, but like I want to talk about it in a certain way, and I want to get you guys input. So this movie is a comic book movie, right? But like it's a comic book movie, right? So I want to ask you, since like we're all of age and such, what are I personally feel like this movie has a better chance of getting younger people into comics more than any other superhero film. And I want to ask you, what do you guys think about that?
I have to agree.
You know what? Yeah.
Because of the variety,
I would say
and
this
because
has,
of the way it's written, and suddenly it's like, ooh, can I? And I like how they, how they would show covers that refer back to characters we meet. It's like, oh, I can go look, and it won't take much effort that they'll find out. Oh, hold it, this cyberpunk Peter Parker, or not Peter Parker, but Spider-Man exists. Oh, this version exists. Oh, there's a whole comic stream on Gwen. There's all of these, and so now they can just pick one you like, and go, I want to watch that one.
Yeah. And I honestly, I feel like, look, people have been saying comics have been dying before I've been born.
Yeah.
But this, I feel like no one actually looks at a comic like I know about the comic newsstands where like you would go into the store and you got the rack. You got the Spider-Man, you got the X-Men, you got the Thor, you flip it, you got the Superman, the Batman, whatever. The only time where I can think of when I was a kid where you could actually go to a rack and buy comics was either the comic store or Barnes and Nobles. There was no 7-Eleven or any convenience store that just had comics. And so like when I look at how superhero movies have been, they don't really give you an incentive to go read the comics. Like everything, at least from like 90s and on, has been very visual, at least for TV. Like if I watch the movie of Spider-Man and I want more Spider-Man, I'll just go watch the cartoon Spider-Man rather than go read the comic Spider-Man. But now you have, for example, the death of Cat Stacy. You have a literal entry point to comics just off that alone.
Yeah.
What you put it together as a kid that, hey, all of the scenes of Gwen Stacy look like the comic, I'm going to read the comic.
Yes.
Because there's no show that's going to look like that. Only the comic is going to look like that. And that's why I like that this is animation. Because no matter how hard that you try, like for example, we just got one. Was it No Way Home? We just got a multiverse live action Spider-Man movie,
right?
And it was great. But there's only so much that you can do with live action, even where we are. Like you can't do what this movie did in any fashion in live action.
And, not this well. And not like, the same impact.
Getting the modern person into a comic book, I feel like this is the best way to try and do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
I think I agree.
I dig where you're coming from. But definitely I say that, this is a great gateway movie. And I said it earlier that, this is not only a great gateway, but it, it showed that you can do something like this and it works. You're not going to have people scratching their heads and going, I don't know what's going on. It shows that it can work. You put the effort in, it can work. It's something. There is something I know that we got to talk about. A bit rough, and just very ironic, given the fact that we're celebrating Spider-Man. The day that Spider-Verse came out, end of May. I had to wait a week to see it because my wife and I, we had a little vacation for our anniversary. We weren't about to go sit in a movie theater. But yeah, finally saw Spider-Verse. Ironically, the day that happened was the day that news broke out that artist John Romita Sr. had passed away at age 93. For anybody who doesn't know him, he was an artist. He worked for DC and for Marvel, but he worked for Marvel for decades. And it actually, we're talking about Spider-Man. His mark on Spider-Man is, well, it's immeasurable. He I had it right here. He first started, his stuff in Marvel goes back to like the 50s, and he did romance comics. He did some art for the Captain America revival during the Atlas era, the one where it's Captain America versus the communists. But when he started work on Spider-Man after Steve Ditko left, but he had an unbroken run from issue 39 to issue 58. He had another unbroken, he worked on and off on Spider-Man up until even like the 2000s. But
wow,
he really like his designs on Spider-Man and Peter Parker and his world for years, for even I think we're talking decades. That was like the style. That was the that was the way that that was Spider-Man's signature look.
Yeah.
If it was like when
you can say without the MCU costume is now the current look.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. And here's the thing though, he also, it was during his tenure, he was one of the most iconic images for Spider-Man is the first time we see Mary Jane. The first time we see her fully, because she had her first full appearance was in Spider-Man 42. She was mentioned way back in issue 15, issue 25. Her face was obscured. But I think another character noted, wow, she's good looking. But issue 42, we had that iconic page where we have the full shot of her. She's smiling. Peter Parker's like, and she goes, face it, tiger, you hit the jackpot. That's Romita. Supposedly he based her look on Anne Margaret.
I heard that. I can see
Birdie.
that.
Another character, other characters that he had a hand in creating. The Punisher. He had a hand in creating him. Jerry Conway did a rough sketch of what he wanted to do. And, Romita took the sketch, made the skull larger, made it so that, the belt, Punisher's belt looks like the skull's teeth. I think Black Widow's iconic design, I think that was Romita. He did, he designed or helped design Luke Cage, Bullseye, Tigra. He helped design Wolverine.
Nice. So
Wolverine's,
he influenced us more than we could ever
first,
know.
yeah. Wolverine's first design, that kind of cat-like thing with the, and the fact that he's so short, it's Romita, it's supposedly Romita looking at a description, going to an encyclopedia, seeing the description for what a Wolverine is, and being like, oh, okay, I'm going to, let's do this.
Wow.
He did, he designed the Spider-Man villain Rhino. I'm looking at like I'm sitting here and I'm looking, Alex Ross a long time ago did an art piece that was a tribute to Romita. And I'm just looking at all these characters, which I guess have like something he's either drawn or had something to do with. And it's incredible because you got, you got Spider-Man, and, you got Spider-Man, but you also have like, you have his villains, the Rhino, Shocker, Kingpin. You've got Luke Cage. You've got, I guess he did some work on the Submariner because he's in this. You've got Punisher.
Oh my gosh.
You've got like all these. You've got you've got Mantis. You've got Firestar. He threw in a Spider Slayer. I can see that. I see the Tarantula. It's like, yeah, you just got all these characters, and it's like, so he had a hand in all of them. Like, all these characters, he has a hand in somehow, and it's astonishing. It's like, wow, holy cow, that's incredible. That's just, wow. I can't, I just can't believe it. It's
that
one of these
one
things.
person is so responsible for so much of what we know and love in comic books even today.
Oh yeah, no, and he apparently he did, and then another thing, he did art, he did like uncredited artwork on Superman versus Spider-Man.
What?
Oh wow.
There was a Superman versus Spider-Man? How do I not remember this?
Yeah, no, 1976. 1976, there was this oversized book, which was, Spider-Man versus Superman.
Oh, I might have seen it.
The cover is a Superman and Spider-Man fighting above the Empire State Building.
You got Spidey on the top of the spire, and then Superman's kind of swooping in and looking like he's ready to, throw down. Oh man, I even see, just having researched this, it's like he was inker on the debut of Monica Rambeau. So, who's just about to make her, who's just about to headed to movies with the Marvels. So it's like, he's just one of those. It's like you look at his like resume, you look at all the stuff he's done, and it's like, holy cow, holy moly. And he's still, I see stuff from his work that he's done going all the way up to 2010. So I mean, the guy was the guy was working. I mean, he wasn't and it's just like, and it's the other thing. The thing with Spider-Man though is that he really, like, when he got his hands on it, he redesigned, like, Peter Parker, was supposed to be this skinny kid, and he basically he gave Peter Parker a handsome look, much more handsome look, and he threw in, you have, of course, these beautiful ladies like Gwen, Mary Jane, those it's, he threw in this kind of, I've heard it described, he is, it was kind of like he threw in some soap opera influence. And it's like,
which would make sense, because if you're talking about a high school student even a college student, no offense, our lives are soap operas when we're in high school.
Yep.
Our teens and our 20s, we are the epitome of soap opera, whether we want it to be that way or not. So it kind of fits a little bit. But it's really, there are so many names out there that we forget how influential they are on our lives, because even people who aren't big comic book fans, they know some of these characters either from the movies or visuals or something like that, and they know those characters, but you don't always connect it with the fact that a real human designed it, created it, made it look special, and brought it into our worlds. And what's sad is how many of these creators are moving on to the next plane of existence. And we just can hope that we have enough people in today's world to try and fill some of those voids, because they did used to do everything. I just feel like
it also,
I wish there was more.
No, also, it just, to me, it's also like, it's also one of these things where, like, I think also people, you have somebody who comes up with the next style, like I think probably the next influential style that I can think of as far as Spider-Man would be Todd McFarlane. And not to like downplay his contributions, because he did draw some awesome Spider-Man art. Not to definitely not to downplay that. He definitely did, but it's like, then people just think, oh, this is, I feel like whoever becomes the defining one of their generation, that's it. It's not looking back on, well, there was also this person and this person, so like someone who's familiar with McFarlane, which, I'm not, nothing against. I actually think McFarlane's style is real, I like McFarlane's style, but you then have people who forget that, Romita also did, forget George Perez, forget all these artists, because they're just so focused on the current guy that they're not like, and it's good. It is good though that there are some modern writers and artists who are not just going to forget their forebears, that they do go and they go, I'm influenced by Romita, I'm influenced by Perez, I'm influenced by Kirby, because it's like it's one of those things. You don't, as these people move on, as these people retire, as they go to the next dimension, you don't want them to be forgotten. At least I don't want them to be forgotten.
Absolutely.
I agree. And that's why movies like the Spider-Verse, because it gave us that collection of Spider-Man, past, present, and maybe some future ones are hiding in there too. And the fact that they pull from all these different amazing artistic minds. The fact that people like John Romita Sr. was able to create the kind of, we're going to use the word canon. And so much of what is now canon with Spider-Man, this movie really is a love letter to Spider-Man and comics in general, because of that, because it pulls from all these great artists and all these amazing, some of them one-offs, some of them had their own multi-book levels, but it was just yet another cherry on top for this movie, and why I enjoyed it so much. And I'd only recognized, probably a small percentage of the various Spider-Mans, but I had to go and find more because I want to know, okay, who was that Spider-Man? That must have been after my time, but I want to know who they are, you know?
Yeah. No, I recognize, having read Spider-Verse, I recognized a few, but yeah, trust me, you're not alone in that, you were in being like, wait a minute, how do I, yeah. Wait, is that so and so? Is that so and so? What? Yeah, no. Believe me, you are not alone. You are not alone.
They had
I
every
just
cartoon besides the '90s one, and I wanted to know why.
You know what? I mean, probably. You know what? Honestly, yeah. You had I wouldn't be surprised if it's, I wouldn't be so, again, given just the sheer amount, I would not be, it would not surprise me if maybe, they hold back a few. Not to mention, I mean, the '90s cartoon Spidey, the one voiced by Christopher Daniel Barnes, you gotta, his look compared to like some of the other Spider-Men that are there, his look is not too distinct. So it's like, if you're going to use him, if you're going to have him show up, you got to figure some way to make him stand out.
Take off his mask, because you had Spectacular Spider-Man with his mask off.
Yeah. I mean, I get, that is an idea. That is definitely an idea. I mean, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. It's how to pull it off. Yeah, how to pull it off, and be able to do that. Be able to. I mean, I suppose they could have him with his mask off, and they could have, you could have the dun 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 dun. You could have that pop out, and
Well, I've heard a few chatter online about how, well, it's got to be in the Beyond. They have to bring him into the Beyond, and that they're just saving him for the Beyond. So you're not the only person thinking that.
Maybe.
And I feel that most of the universe is going, please include him, please.
Yeah.
Yoo-hoo.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll be fortunate enough to actually get that.
It is possible. I mean, we still have Beyond, so we might get Giant Spider-Man. We may get Fox Kids Spider-Man. It is possible. It is definitely possible. The door is open. The door hasn't been closed. It's just, is it, I mean, it's just a matter of, but then also don't forget, we still have, this isn't just throwing a bunch of Spider-Men at the wall and, having people go, hey, it's Ben Reilly. Oh, hey, it's Flash Thompson as Captain Spider. Oh, hey, it's this, it's that.
Right.
You do have to have, you do have to give service to the plot. So, it can't just be, okay, well, we're gonna throw in, we're gonna throw in this Spider-Man and, just call it good. You do have to have, the plot, get serviced by this. So, I mean, it is, maybe we might not get all the Spider-Man we want, but at least we'll get like something out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to, sometimes it is a choose, pick your battles. It is a pick your battles thing. They can't have all these Spider-Man. I know that they did have, I think Spider-Man Unlimited was in there somewhere.
Yes, he was. Yes.
If I recall. Okay, so yeah, he was in there. So
I saw him.
Yep, I saw him. We did get, I think Spider-Side was in there somewhere. I don't know. It's honestly, this is definitely what I warned my wife. I said, we get this on, once we get this, we have this media to own. I'm going to be watching this like crazy and
trying to pick it all out
to spot everybody. Yeah. There's going to be massive pausing. I'm just telling you right now. I would love to see the 1602 Spider-Man. I know that he did get killed off in one of the Spider-Verse crossovers, unfortunately, but multiverse. he might still be around in some capacity.
Yeah. Hey,
maybe
there's
not.
two things we haven't talked about. So before we leave, we should probably touch on it. One is another live action cameo.
Which one?
There's a live action cameo we've not talked about. Mrs. Chen.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Chen.
Oh. And I'll say this. I gotta love how she just takes it all in stride.
Yeah, she's seen Venom chew someone's head off. So the spot coming through to her universe was like, yeah, so what?
It's like yeah. Her whole thing of like, okay, whatever. Now I got somebody opening a portal in my, it's like she'll, I could definitely see her just, shrugging her. She'd probably talk to Mr. Chen later or something and just be like, some guy opened a portal.
Yes.
It's like I got to deal with Eddie and I got to deal with guys opening portals in my shop.
What am I going to do with these people? Yep. And then there's one other one.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. You can't really call it live action. We'll call it voice. He has been the voice of this character
J.K.
for
Simmons.
so long.
Yep.
Yes.
There you go.
J.K. Simmons.
Yes.
When he dies, they're just going to have to add his voice and his persona because he is the best, the only J. Jonah Jameson ever. Period. End of discussion.
Okay. I will say this though. No, I am going to say this though. The only person that I think comes close to J.K. Simmons is Jonah. And it might not be, they may have to use some archive footage for this. The only person who I think comes close to J.K. Simmons as JJ is the late, great Ed Asner. He voiced Jonah in the 90s, in the Fox Kids Spider-Man series.
Yes.
And
interesting.
For the longest time, until the Tobey Maguire movies, his voice was the default JJ voice that I had in my head.
Oh, interesting.
Like, you see these movies, you read these, you see these movies, you see these cartoons and these TV shows, and then something becomes the default for you. And for me, it's like Ed Asner was the default for the longest time. A little bit of JK now, JK Simmons now slips in there. But yeah, Ed Asner, I mean, he did a great JJ,
Yes.
He really brought, he did, he brought the curmudgeoniness and he brought the emotion. So, definitely I would say that, he's another great JJ. Unfortunately, no longer around. It would be great if they maybe threw his voice in there. Maybe just have some archive footage, just like use some archive audio and just be like, Parker!
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think the ones that stick with us the most, aside from possibly being part of our collective childhood memories, is that the way they portrayed him.
Yes.
There was that certain gruffness in the voice that they all were able to portray.
Yep.
And there was that certain fanaticism that they were able to convey in body and or voice.
I think also it's not, it's not just that. It's that also at the end of the day, as fanatical as JJ is, as obsessive as he is, the redeeming quality though, the thing that makes, J. Jonah Jameson such a great character is that he also, like, end of the day, he does have a pursuit of the truth. Like, he would not, he is somebody that if a politician, was doing something dirty, he would call him out. He would call him out. He would say that, no, this cannot stand. if somebody gave him like, threw like $100 on his, on his desk and said, "I want you to bury this," he would just be like, "Take your money." I'm already, I already got a ton of money from publishing. I don't need $100. This is chump change to me. Get out of my office. Miss Brandt, escort him out.
Now, I think that there's just something about it that is, I don't know, that character, he has to be that foil. Not always a bad guy. Sometimes a little.
No. I would never. I would never call, even when Jameson would like get behind the controls of a spider slayer. I would never call him a bad guy. Because
misguided.
At his core, yes, I would say misguided. I would say not bad guy, not adversary. Yeah, foil is the perfect word, because he does have a dedication to what he to the truth, whether it's genuine truth or whatever it is. He is somebody who will end of the day, he knows if somebody's trying to smear Captain America, he would be somebody who would be just jumping forward and being like, this person is trying to smear a symbol of American exceptionalism, and I cannot stand. He will come out there and he will back up the right. He will back the right horse. End of the day, end of the day, he will. That if there is an injustice, he will call it out, and he will be like, this cannot stand. I ask all New Yorkers to stand up and fight. And someone will, you will have people who will back him up and just be like, yep, no, JJ's right. Let's do this. Even like, hey, even Spider-Man, I think, will lovingly tease JJ and go, "Oh, Joe's got a heart." Get away from here, you menace.
Wow.
Somebody escort him out of my office. JJ, he already jumped out a window. Use a door, you freak.
I think we're always going to need JJ. He needs to be a part of Spider-Man forever.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, geez. I still think, and now one more thing I think I do want to cover. They recently dropped a trailer for Kraven the Hunter.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Will this be another Spider-Man villain without Spider-Man in it?
This is gonna.
It seems like it. It just, I gotta be honest. Well, it looks kind of cool. I'm not feeling it. I'm just, honestly, I don't know why.
Are they diverging too much from?
How do I?
Because you could kind of tell this story without it being Kraven.
Yeah, no, especially because wait a minute. He gets his Cravenness because a lion bleeds on him or something. What? Yeah, a lion bleeds on him, and all of a sudden he's all.
That's how you make a vampire.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like they already tried the vampire route.
Exactly.
With a certain,
I wanted that movie to work so bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I wanted it to be
it's
so.
I get. Okay, look. I understand. That you would want a piece of you'd want a piece of the Marvel pie. You would want to have the thing where Marvel's making all this bank off of their properties.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man has such a rich bunch of characters. Is there any way we can make off of it? But the thing is that just so much of it, it's like I don't even. I just feel like it's. Are they really doing it the right way.
No,
it feels like a cash grab.
No,
because it's like
it's more sheer stupidity. Because like you have to ask yourself, right? If you're a Sony executive and you want to make another Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man, you look at the previous ones. So let's look at Venom and Venom 2. Let's just throw out the window that they're awful. Let's just throw out the window. Let's see how much money they made.
Yeah.
They made a certain amount of cash. I don't understand. Okay, so if we're going out to make another movie, are we trying to shoot under this budget? Because here's the thing. I don't see. We've had a movie with 99 universes, and I can't see one where Kraven makes more money than Venom.
Yeah. No, it's
none of the people know that either.
Well, and then trying to cast Kraven as some sort of hero or anti-hero, like they did with Morbius. I just find myself being like, why is this where you want to go? Why is this what you want to do?
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, and here's the thing, because Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse movies, you have an out. You have a way to do these things. And that's, oh, look, you have another Spider-Man, Miles Morales. That can be your Spider-Man. And then you can do, you can, to your heart's content, you can just be like, I'm going to, you could do what you will and, create a brand new universe. But, to do this thing where like, okay, we're going to have, Morpheus as this anti-hero type, and, we're going to have dancing Matt Smith.
Yeah. They could and Kraven is a very specific character that is, not many people outside of the comic book world would probably see Kraven, where there are other characters out there that if you wanted to do them, it's one of the complaints that's been had, is that either there's too many villains or too many obscure villains, or the way they design the villains are horrible. It's like, okay, take something that you think would be enjoyable both to the fans and to new people. Have fun with it. Yeah. But I don't know. It just, I feel like they're trying to churn things out while they still own the properties.
Because
and the only Sony ones that have worked have been in conjunction with MCU.
Because they want their own live action thing to work for some odd reason. And like, I'm sorry, but live action Spider-Man without Spider-Man, it's like, how do I put it? It's like taking the Pokemon out of Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't do a Pokemon movie without Pikachu.
No. You know what? It's making, you know what it is? It's making a live action Pokemon about Team Rocket.
Exactly.
And then not having them chase after Pikachu.
Exactly.
I agree completely. And it's like, come on.
Are we here for this? No. Where is the yellow rat?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
no, where is the swing man?
And then not to mention, it's like having, it's having, a Team Rocket, it's having a Team Rocket movie without Pikachu, and then you try to have Team Rocket as almost like anti-heroes. Like you have them fight against an even bigger villain, and it's like, it just doesn't, it just does not work.
Also,
it just does not work. Well, featuring Matt Smith as like a Giovanni that makes like, jokes.
Karen Gillan has to like steer him a certain way, because he's shooting for Marvel, but he's shooting for the other Marvel. Like,
you're
almost there. Just to the right.
Yep. Oh man. Yeah. I'm just all I know is I know that one of the rumored thing, I know that after Craven, I think the next one up is Madam Web, and I'm just like,
I really want to see these characters, but I want to see them done right.
I want to see them with Spider-Man.
Here's the problem outside of the MCU, and even though not everybody likes everything the MCU has done, the MCU has created a great universe that in general makes fans and new fans happy. The DCU and the Sony's attempts have been very bits and pieces, better editing, better writing, the better something. And I feel sad because I love these properties. And when you start to make the 1970s live action TV movies of Spider-Man look good, you're doing it wrong.
Well, I think it's even worse because with the DCU, at least they're trying to have they're trying to include the universe. Really, it's just a matter of it's just a matter of like the fact that you have maybe a maybe like this I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it. The problem is that it's a tonal thing. It's a tonal thing. It's that they can't decide on the tone that they're going for. That's the problem. The problem with Sony is that they're trying to really, it feels like a have their cake and eat it too.
Yes.
They want to they want to do is they want to be able to do their own stuff. They want to basically take the little bits and pieces that they have access to and just make it work. Whereas this is not, these characters can't just be in a vacuum.
Right. Make it connect better. The closest thing they've gotten to good outside of the Tom Holland and the Spider-Verse and the Miles Morales movies, because those were very much still connected. They very much still pulled the best of the MCU to connect it all with it. Their other films have had bits and pieces. There are parts of Venom that I truly enjoy, both versions of the movie, both movies. Yeah. But as a whole, I would have done some things very differently. And what a waste of an amazing actor.
Yes. Yeah.
Same with Morbius.
Yeah.
You have these amazing actors and you wasted your time, and put your pulse. Feel the pulse of the fans, feel the pulse of what worked in the Spider-Verse movies. Everything that everyone has loved. And I have heard rave. I can't even remember if I've heard anything negative about either Across the Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse. I remember all of us loving it so much that what did you do right with those? Stick with that formula. Stick with that attitude. Stick with that feeling. Don't go off on these tangents and say, well, we did that so well, let's do something completely different.
And now for something completely different.
I think it's that, but I also think it's this, that you have the higher ups that don't see that, right? They need to see Spider-Man film. Okay, you make 2 bad Spider-Man film. Here comes Spider-Verse. Okay, good Spider-Man film. Okay, do it again. But for live action, bad Spider-Man film. Okay, bad Spider-Man film. Now here is Spider-Verse again. And it's gonna happen again. Okay, good Spider-Man film. Now do it with live action. I mean, it's just gonna keep on going. Because again, they aren't getting these rights back until God knows when. And
they're not paying attention.
I think they're just gonna hold on to it until, they just start losing enough money that they'll be like, okay, we're calling it audible.
And I think
it's
like, I think that's that's gonna start this year, because a certain movie company that's making certain superhero films put out $1.1 billion to make 2 superhero films this year, and it's tanking extremely hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if your superhero movie's gonna tank in this day and age, it's gonna tank hard.
Yeah.
Because like again, Flash is tanking. If this came out what a couple years ago, it's probably not gonna tank. Freaking Craven's not Flash. If Flash can tank, imagine what Craven can do.
Yeah. It could
I mean,
destroy the studio. That's the problem.
As far as Flash is concerned, I've heard, I have heard that it's not pulling in what they expected. I haven't heard like tanking, but I have, I have heard that the results have been less than less than stellar.
It's still early. And I have heard that Michael Keaton in it. It is Michael Keaton's movie.
Yeah,
he steals the show.
Oh yeah,
and
he
is phenomenal. And so again, you've got this character in maybe a less than stellar movie that, okay, you did this, but you could have done it so much better. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people who went to go see it just because they wanted to see what they did with Michael Keaton coming back.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm just, no, I feel exactly. I mean, you know what? And this is something I think though, if we do it, we should probably, if we review The Flash, we should probably save it for that. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I just, and honestly, this could be an episode in and of itself where we just talk about, the status of superhero movies. Maybe it will be an episode in and of itself. But I think for now, we do have to say goodbye, unfortunately.
Yes, we
do. We can talk for hours, but I know that Mark's not here, and I know that you would probably be like, why don't you talk for hours and not at me? The reason is it's Vicky and I in a room together. What did you expect,
I know.
What
Gotta
did you
shut me down
expect?
sometimes.
But yeah, I think, but I will say that thank you for joining us. Remember, we do have Odyssey Radio. You can find us all over the internet. We're on Facebook. Mark, Vicky, and I are on Twitter. Zion, when are you joining Twitter, dude?
Oh, I do not know.
Okay, we need to conquer more social medias. We need to have more social medias out there. Canon event. Marco 42 taking over social media. Oh well, aside from that, this has been Marco 42. I'm Eduardo M. Freyre with Vicky Jakubowski, Zion Quiros. Mark, took a weekend off, but that's fine because he's with us in spirit. I mean, I took several weekends off, but I've been with you guys in spirit. I'm back now, though. So yeah, just from all of us to all of you, just remember, try to be nice when going to someone else's universe. Don't break anything. Don't cause an incursion.
Thanks for listening to Mark 42's Universe, featuring Mark Baumgarten, Eduardo M. Freyre, Vicky Jakubowski, and Zion Quiros. This show was produced and directed by Mark Baumgarten. If you'd like to get in touch with us, go to our Facebook page or email us at marku42s.universe@gmail.com. Our radio show airs weekly on Subspace Radio Network at www.subspace.radio and on iHeartRadio. You can listen to our old shows at our website, marku42.com, and many podcast platforms such as iTunes, Audible, and Pandora. And if you want to hear shows dating back to 2012 with over 150 celebrity interviews, try our YouTube page, Marku42. Marku 42's Universe, copyrighted 2023.